boys and girls, Doug Giles here. It's Warriors, Rich.
And Wildmen. What's happening, Doug?
Rich, I got up this morning, got a cup of Joe, looked at my book page, Psalms of War, Prayers That Literally Kick Ass. 2 months today, man. #1, Middle Eastern literature. Guys, this is a very practical book. It is a compilation of prayers that you need to drop on Satan's crotch. And Psalms of War, Prayers That Literally Kick Ass. Rich, it's goofy, man. I haven't done major TV or major radio pushes, and it's just going.
That's awesome, man. Well, yeah, it's needed. It's cool.
I hope the devil thoroughly regrets this book. So,
well, I think a lot of people don't think like that. And I had sent you a memory that popped up on my Facebook the other day, and it was just what your book is about. You know, it was one of the Psalms, and because somebody threatened to kill me again. You know, I was like, got to get in line. A bunch of people want to kill me, but I don't worry about that stuff because I know God is my defender. And what that thing that I sent you, I know you remember reading that. But my whole thing was to the people that are my enemies. You can do whatever you want. You can try whatever you want, but God is my defender. I don't think that I'm tough or because I know people in special forces. Also, that doesn't make you special forces, by the way, for all the guys out there who think that it does. I don't think I'm one of these guys on TV. I know that God protects me because I'm called by him to do what I am called to do. And I know he thrashes those that try to hurt me. And there's no jokes about that. Like 100%. I believe it. 100%. Right. That book, Warriors and Wildmen, you guys need to get that. And you need to learn how to pray like that and let God be your defender. And then you don't have to fear.
I tell you what, man, going through Peterson's translation of the Psalms, I mean, it'll completely change the way you pray. And I mean, even so, we utilize the King James Version in the Psalms of War because it's public domain, it's free,
right?
And don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops, you know, like you do with the NASB and stuff. But I think if you just stick with King Jimmy Version, it'll change the way you pray. I listen to Christians pray all the time, Rich, and it's like it sounds nothing like the way that David prays.
Right.
It is completely different, especially, again, when you get into Peterson's translation of the Message and you get the rhythm, the rhyme, the rawness. I mean, this is a complete game changer in praying. And we've been taught, just like anything, man, everything's neutered, everything's soft focus, everything's a walk, you know, in the park or along the beach. Everything's been tamed down. Everything's been mollycoddled. And man, again, you know, I wrote the book. I know it sounds self-congratulatory, but it will frickin' change the way you pray, man. Guarantee it'll change the way you pray if you immerse yourself in it. I highly recommend that people they read this stuff out loud. Read it out loud. Get pissed off at your enemy. And I'm not talking about somebody who flamed you on Twitter or something like that. I'm talking about Satan, the powers of darkness, you know, big stuff, principalities and powers, people trying to hijack America, people trying to compromise the church, that kind of stuff. And imagine, you know, you're David and you're out in the wilderness, man. You got your guitar and nobody's there, and you are just belting out an invective to heaven for God to clean house on everything that's an enemy to us, foreign and domestic. And I guarantee it, again, it's going to change the way you pray.
Yep.
You're not going to say, Jesus is my personal savior. You're not going to say, oh, Lord. You're going to call him your defender, your protector, your rock, your fortress.
Yeah.
It's going to start rolling out like never before, Richard.
Well, the great thing about that is that, Doug, that's an expression of biblical faith in Christianity versus cultural faith in Christianity, because, you know, we're taught that, oh, you know, everything's good and it's all great. And sometimes we need, you know, not sometimes, but we need warriors to step up. And I think that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about today, about being a good man, And you know, that we're going to talk about that and the things that we believe makes a person a good man, according to what the Bible says too. But you talk about society, you talk to different groups of people, and you're going to get different definitions of what a good man is. Even in the church, what's a good man? It's like, well, he does what his wife tells him. Happy wife, happy life, and all that kind of crap. If I hear another person say happy wife, happy life, that's garbage, bro. That's anti-biblical. It's not your job to make your wife happy. Her happiness is her responsibility. Your job is to take care of your responsibility and your own happiness, because she's not responsible for your happiness. She's also not your maid. So, I mean, that stuff is all balanced, right? Like, that's the thing. But it has to come from the Word, not from our culture, where we need to neuter all the men. And that's what they want in our culture today. So I think that's why this is important. It's interesting because I know a young man, and he has a dog, and he wants to breed this dog. And he took him home to his dad's house, and his dad has a bunch of dogs, and all of them are neutered. And he said, well, you should get this dog neutered because there's already enough dogs, and no, I'm going to breed this dog, and I'm going to make money. And lo and behold, this little tiny dog rules the house because he has nuts. Literally, that's the reason. Because he has balls. These other dogs that are way bigger than him, they run from him because he has balls. Could they beat him in a fight? Yeah, today. But they better be ready to fight tomorrow, because him and his nuts are going to show back up. And they're not going to outlast him because he has nuts. Some people might think I'm trying to be crass or something, but I'm not. There's the testosterone. This is where it's happening. That's what makes that dog the alpha, even though physically he's a quarter of the size of the other dogs. And so we take men who are made, like you often say, we're made to walk in that testosterone fog. The reality is that God made us like that, and the world is trying to neuter us.
Yeah, they got to, because those of us who live in the rarefied air of the testosterone fog on Mount Mantown, we're a threat to cultural mores and people that try to intimidate us, hold us down. We're not into groupthink. We're not beholden to anything except to God and His Word. And like I said, man, the liberals, they can't tolerate that. Islam can't tolerate that. Marxists can't tolerate that. Republicans can't tolerate that, because somebody like that is bold, is wild, and they're free.
And is a threat. Not easily ruled. Man.
Yeah, and that's again, you won't hear that in church. But you see the examples, first and foremost, of Christ. He wasn't beholden to anybody but the Father. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't sit there and watch, or listen to the Pharisees or his dunderhead disciples or some, vacillating vixen talk mad smack or spew lies, hype, and spin and not confront it. He was, he was not beholden. He wasn't cowed. And he had that testicular fortitude that the church woefully needs pretty damn quick, Rich.
Yeah.
And truckloads and truckloads and oodles of it, or we're going to get steamrolled by the powers of darkness.
That's true.
I think. Go ahead. Yeah, I think it's there's some pockets in the body of Christ that have really ponied up and stuff. There's a lot of great men of God, young and old, that are tapping into that inner wild man that the Holy Spirit has hardwired them with. But I'd say by and large, I'm seeing the whoop and warp of seminaries and big churches and denominations completely losing their cojones, and they're capitulating to woke cultures and Marxism and just stuff that would make Jesus frickin' vomit. And it's all because they lack balls, period.
Well, I saw a video this week. I think it was TikTok. Somebody sent it to me because I'm not on TikTok. But it was Gen X, millennials, and then is this Gen Z? Yeah, this current generation. And so whatever it is. So Gen X, the guy, it's the same guy. He slams his hand in the drawer when he closes it, and he looks at his hand and he kind of shakes it and walks away, And then it showed millennials, and the same guy closes his hand on the drawer, and he says the F word, but I'll say freak the way he says it. And he goes, freak. You know how they talk? And then it showed Gen Z, and he closed his hand on the drawer, and he looked at it, and he fell down on one knee, and he goes, Daddy, my pussy. So sorry if that offends you. I'm not, guys, that's what it said. But I'm not saying that to try to be, sensational. It's just that's what the video said, and the point is that be a man, do what men do. Don't act like a woman. Don't raise your boys to act like women. And I told this story before, but my grandfather, I hurt myself when we were working in the car, and I said, ow. And he goes, my grandfather looks at me and he goes, ow. And I was so mad. I was like 16, right? You're trying to be a man, And I look at him, man. And I'm mad, bro. And he's staring right at me, and he kind of smiles, and he goes, ow. Dude, he's pushing the buttons. But check this out. And I'm still looking at him, and he goes, ow. He goes, hey, when you did that, did it stop hurting? Did it feel better? And I was like, no. And he goes, then shut up and take it like a man.
Don't make that
And
noise.
he just started working. Yeah. And I so want to be like my grandfather. He's one of my heroes. He's a man, right? He's a good man. And he goes back to work like, I don't even have time to hear that from you. And Doug, I learned that day, not any other time, that was the day that I learned it, that men don't go, ow, when they hurt themselves. And it stopped, bro.
Right.
When I tell you it stopped, it never happened again because my grandfather let me know how stupid it sounded, right? And that's how you raise good men. You give them an example, and then people hate this, but you make fun of the behavior you don't want them to repeat.
Yeah, Hamish was over, and for those who don't know, Hamish, my first grandson, he was over at the house the other day, and he was just freaking hauling ass across the yard, and legs moving too fast and just out of control, and just whoom, just face plants on the ground. And man, he really ate it. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, just hard, hands worn out. And he just got up, man, and he was trying not to cry, and it was like he was angry that he, tripped on basically nothing. Angry that he felt like crying or saying ow. And man, you could just see him internalizing all that stuff. It's like, I'm not going to do it in front of granddad. And man, but he really ate.
Yeah,
brother. I mean,
yeah.
Boof! And I was like, oof. So, but man, he wasn't like, mommy. He didn't do any of that kind of stuff. He didn't want me to cradle him and things. Just freaking shook it off. But he ate it, brother. He ate it big time. I tell you one thing that I talk about in the book, Pussification, the feminization of the American male, speaking about a good man. It hardly ever gets brought up nowadays. And you were rattling off a bunch of stuff before we got into the podcast from the stupid women's magazine about what to look for in a man. I'll tell you what to look for. Look for a provider. Get somebody who's making some Benjamins, Hello, folks. What about whatever happened to this verse, Rich? And I guarantee that it's not a refrigerator magnet for most of the people. Mm-hmm. And it's probably not discussed in youth group either. And here's what it is. It's 1 Timothy 5. If you don't provide for your household, you're worse than an unbeliever. What else did it say? You rejected the faith? Or something like that. I think it's 1 Peter 5, something, verse
I love
8,
that
somewhere
verse.
in around there. Yeah, and think about that, because now it's so freaking weird to me, Rich. You've got, quote unquote kids. Listen, if you're mid 30s, if you're early 30s, you're not a kid anymore.
Right.
It's not like, well, my kid lives at home. It's like, you got a freaking middle-aged adult.
You got a lazy man
home.
living at your house.
If we get 70 years, folks, 2 into 70 is 3, and then what else? 35, something like that, isn't it?
Half your
or
life.
What's half of 70? Yeah, so if and you're not providing, man, I tell you what, you have so missed the boat.
Yep.
When I got jobs when I was freaking 9 years old, throwing papers with my brother, 10 years old. We'd go up and down the block. Hey, you going to mow your yard? We were industrious. And I think when it was quote unquote legal for an employee to hire me, boom, working at the car wash, man, because I saw the movie Car Wash. And I thought, that's the dream right there. That's the dream I'm going to have. and got 4 jobs right now, or 4 businesses that I run. Hello. And then there's the 30-year-old or the 20. Let me even dig deeper.
Yeah.
There's the little 18-year-old or the 17-year-old physically fit young man or woman. And you can't get off your ass and provide for your own stuff.
Yep.
You have to have mommy and daddy melt their plastic to take care of your bullshit. You're an embarrassment to God. You're a joke. One of the things, if you want to be a good man, forget wearing a cardigan and doing all this other kind of lame stuff. Get a flippin' job.
Yep, that's right.
Anybody who's lazy, according to this book called the Bible, in this particular book, in that book called the Bible, called Proverbs, you're cursed if you're lazy. And employees, if you hire a lazy person, I don't care if it's nepotism, I don't care if it's your little nephew or your son, you're an idiot and you'll bring a curse into your business. So anybody, any guy, anything with cojones, anything that sports twigs and berries, that's lazy and doesn't provide, you've denied Christianity and you've denied the image of God in your life.
Yeah, so let's call that on our list. Let's call that number 2, and we'll call it strong work ethic, right? And that could start with their kids. You know, if you're going to be a provider, you have a strong work ethic, you're going to be a provider, right? And so we'll call number 2 that. And then number 1, we're not going to talk about this, is if you want to be a good man, you got to love God. And we talk about that all the time. So we're done with that. But so number 1, they got to love God. Number two is strong. Number 1 is love God. Number 2, strong work ethic. And I think you covered it on that, Doug. I talked to the boys, and I said to them, guys, look, when you're not here, we do less work. When you're here, we do more work. That doesn't make sense. There's now 4 bodies in this house. You're going to contribute. I'm not going to do more when you show up. I'm going to do less because you're going to do more. But we don't raise kids like that. We raise them to be spoiled and lazy, and the boys, you know, they work hard. They'll do what we ask them to do, and they do the things they're supposed to do.
Awesome.
And it's fine. That's good. But we can't raise kids thinking that we're here to serve them. You know, that's garbage. That's trash.
Well, that's what you know, modern Christianity is. You know, it's like, God's here to serve me. Hey, Jesus, I want this stat.
Yep.
You know, instead of you're to serve him. Even if it means going to prison or getting murdered, you know, for his sake.
You remember?
And,
you remember when we were in Texas hunting, and I had my boys with me, and Caleb was skinning the animals that we had shot that day, and then one of the guys that is one of his friends that he works with was getting ready to go home, and he saw him over there working, so he came to help, even though he was off work. And then remember, he had a cast on his hand because it got slammed between the gate and a bull, and he said, hey, let me jump in there and help you. And that guy jumped in there when he was supposed to go home, stayed an hour and a half later because somebody was working, and he has a strong work ethic. He's not going to go home if somebody's working, and then apologized that he couldn't do more because he had a cast on his hand. You're never going to have to worry about that guy being lazy. And when my sons were there, I told them, I said, you see that right there? That's a good man right there. That's what good men do. When people are working, they hustle.
Yeah, again, but you're never going to hear that. You know, praise too often.
Well, you won't hear it in church.
Not at all, man. I haven't heard anybody do a sermon except for me. Maybe I'm sure you've covered it, but I don't hear people talk about if you don't provide, you've denied the faith.
That's it.
And you're worse. I mean, this is the Holy Spirit saying you're worse than an unbeliever if you're not a provider. So, well, you know, COVID this and COVID that. Hey, man. Roll the dice, you know, start a business if your business just went underneath, belly up. I've got a buddy of mine who is into fleshing out bars and doing all these elaborate, cool drink menus and stuff. And so when COVID hit, bam, I think I told you about this, Rich, shut everything down, all the bars, all the hotels, all the places that he was fixing up these elaborate drink menus and just doing these very cool interior design places. They're all shut down. So he's like, what can I do next? I know people are still drinking. They might be drinking more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my incredible drink mix kits that I've created for these fabulous bars all across the United States and Western Europe, and I'm going to serve them to people at their house, and we're going to get a bunch of pretty girls to deliver it to them. and they sold more alcohol that way than they did in the flipping these posh bars that he created. And I think his company in 1 year is worth $50 million now.
Whoa, that's getting it on right there.
Hello. And he lost his ass, man. He was like, life's over. What do you do? Well, I can get $600 from Joe Biden. You know, I'm going to get some.
No, he hit the reset button.
Yeah, it's just freaking just boom. But you know what? He's always been like that, man. He's like a weeble. Do you remember the weeble that wobbles?
But they don't fall down?
Throw it on. Yeah, man. He's always springing back up. It's like a ping pong ball. You submerge it under, 100 feet of water, and that thing's going to come to the top.
Every time.
But here's his background, man. Farmer, hard work. Get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, throw hay, milk a cow.
Yeah.
Put horseshoes on a horse, and do that before you go to school. And but again, not in church, not in our little families nowadays.
We're trying to figure out ways for everybody to do less.
Yeah.
So number three, we'll go to number 3. How about integrity? Right. Integrity. If you're going to be a good man, you have to have integrity. So what would integrity be, Doug?
Man, I don't know. Keep your word. Yes is yes, no is no. If you blow it, own it. To me, that kind of stuff. I think the only way that I can be full of integrity, Rich, when I usually am full of BS and stuff, is I'm constantly before the audience of one, because that is the only thing. Or I'm sorry, he is the only thing that can keep my character in check and be somebody that somebody can trust. So, a lot of people talk about integrity. It's like a lot of people talk about the weather, but they don't do anything about it. The only thing that I know that can keep me in check is the Holy Ghost. And
That's
if
good.
I stray from him, if I stray from his word, if I stray from worship, if I stray from the assembly of the saints, then you might not want to trust me,
Right. And I try to tell people this too. Integrity, we're trying to be the same person when we're by ourselves as we are when we're with people, right? And so my idea, a lot of times Christians are different when they're at church than when they're not at church. And so I trying to make that as much as I can the same person, right? And so some people don't like how I am at church, and they say I'm not holy enough. And I think, well, I'm probably not holy enough, but this is how I'm going to be tomorrow too. And I'm not putting on a show. I'm trying to make that the same person. And then at the same time, something to remember, this is a different concept for another day, but there's appropriate things for appropriate times and places, like everyone goes to the bathroom, but you go in a room by yourself and you close the door. So you're not the same with everybody all the time. You don't just do what you do and go, that's who I am. That's stupid. There has to be wisdom, like a bathing suit is appropriate at the beach. Not really appropriate in a lot of other places. And so people say, we have to be exactly the same. Well, that doesn't make sense. When you're going to go work out at the gym or you're going to go over to a cigar lounge, 2 totally different dress codes, atmospheres, attitude, etiquette. And so I think some of that is a lot of legalistic garbage. But I think trying to mesh, so I'm the same person, right? I'm the same person. The same person at church is the same person that's over here, and I think that's integrity, and so that people aren't shocked. And that's who you really are,
Yeah, I'd say you nailed that, and I would guesstimate that people would say the same about me. I don't, I've done with that kind of flip flopping stuff, and looking at 60, it's like I don't care if you like whatever, I think God's fine with me, not perfect, but you're not gonna ever catch me going, aha, you're different, outside of church than you are in church. Like, no, you're not going to say that about me. I'm the same jackass in church as I am outside of church.
Yeah, I'm actually meaner in church.
Yeah, I'm kind of like Leonard Ravenhill, man. He said up in the pulpit, I'm a lion. But yeah, when I get out, I'm a lamb. How you doing? Have some tea and biscuits.
But see, I think in church with Christians, I expect and demand more. And with people that don't know the Lord, I'm more, I guess, laid back, I guess. you know.
Here's another one, man. I guarantee that you'll never, ever, ever hear this being posited, Richard, as a quality of a good man. Now, again, I'm reaching way back into history, and I'm not looking, I'm not looking at American Idol hopefuls, but classically, what makes somebody good. So you've got relationship with God, protector, or a provider, and you got integrity. Protector, I think that's like woohoo. I think it's way high up on the list. You're not cowering under the bed. When somebody tries to break in your house and get behind your wife's negligee or whatever stuff she wears at night. You're Johnny on the spot, man. You're the one who's got the gun barrel, ready to smoke somebody in the face should they come to harm your household. That's you. That's a dude. That's what guys done.
Defend your wife, defend your kids, defend the innocent. Be a protector.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And again, when you're talking about, what does it mean to be a good man? It's like, well, he's nice and he's this and that. It's like that dude protects his family. He's got guns under every kind of nook and cranny. He teaches his kids, he makes certain that they know, martial arts at the highest levels. Teaches them street smarts, and not only just book smarts, because you can be magna cum laude and be magna cum loopy when it comes to sniffing out bullshit. And so that's again another thing that I, except for just a few folks, and I'm happy to say, Rich, that when I wrote the book Raising Righteous and Rowdy Girls, and I really pushed hard on the jiu-jitsu aspect. Now, 10 years after I wrote that, I'm getting these wonderful pictures, direct message to me on Instagram of these 10 and 11-year-old guys and girls, these awesome little kids sitting there in their freaking gi with their chest out, their hands,
right.
Tucked down by their belt and stuff with that mean I'll kill you in your sleep type look on their face. And all of that was because, according to their parents, because I pushed it so hard. And they said, I can't tell you how peaceful we sleep at night, watching them learn how to fight, watching them learn how to roll, getting their strikes in and stuff. And we're starting now, with edged weapons, blades, tomahawks, knives, throwing stars. And we're going to get into pistols and long arms in a year or two. I think it's great, man. Because you know what? You've protected your family, not just you. It's like, I am here to save the day. It's not just you doing it, because you can't be omnipresent. Now you've got those kids, with that protection mindset of, kill serpents if they come to harm our family. And man, that's to me is dude of dude type stuff. You know what I mean?
See, that's throughout history. That's been true. Our culture's trying to change that. It's interesting because you said, they want them to be nice and stuff on this website called Her Norm, 31 Qualities of a Good Man to Marry. Number 1, that means the most important. Number 1, qualities for a man to look for in a man, kind. Make sure he's kind. We want to make sure he's kind. You know what's interesting?
And here's another thing. Number 2, he must listen. Listen.
Well, Jordan Peterson, the world's leading psychologist right now, the guy's incredible. I love to listen to this guy. This is what he said about that, right? He said, you should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it. That's it right there. This thing of, well, you need to develop your inner wuss. No, you don't. You need to be a man. You need to be, capable of terrible things to protect your family, or terrible things can happen to your family. Like they say, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And too many parents are raising their boys up to be gardeners in their spirit, and they need to raise up warriors and then teach them how to control it by the Holy Spirit, so that they're dangerous to evil, but they're safe for good people. We're not training them up to be violent and out of control. We're training them up to be violent and capable, and teaching them how to be in control.
Yeah, and again, for anybody who's listened to any of our discussions on the Warriors of Wildmen podcast, all of this, and we said it at the outset of this podcast, all of this is under the governance of God and to His glory.
Yep.
So we're not trying to raise some crazy, militia. This is just stuff that dads have been doing from time immemorial, where they have their son and their daughter, and it's like, listen, man. It's going to get weird. We're living in caves, and there's another kind of sketchy caveman family over there that keeps looking at our brontosaurus ribs. So I tell you what, man, if one of those snaggletooth homunculus knuckle draggers comes over here and tries to mess with my Raquel Welch wife, or tries to steal our pet pterodactyl, I want you to take that brontosaurus rib bone and beat the shiitake mushrooms out of him.
Right.
Got it, kids?
Yep.
So we're just part of that heritage, man. Adam didn't crush the snake, and look what happened. And C.S. Lewis said, since the world is filled with monsters, it says it's right that the children have heroes and they learn how to war.
Yes.
And Douglas Wilson said, one of the things that we need to make certain as parents when we have kids is that our kids have plenty of toy weapons, because they got to learn how to use that stuff. So get them swords, get them squirt guns, and get them dreaming about conquering things that are evil, because there's evil stuff out there that they're going to face in a scant 15 to 20 years. So you might as well have them pretending until they're actually in front of the fan and the crap hits.
Yep, they're forming their minds. When I was listening to Peterson again just recently, he had a guest on his show. I'll have to look it up and see who it is. Maybe we'll get him on Warriors and Wildmen. But the guy was talking about our culture sees men as disposable, that nature sees men as disposable. And I was like, that's an interesting thought, And he says, yeah, think about it. On the mantle at your grandparents' house is a picture of some uncle or somebody that you never met that died at war. And everybody talks about what a hero he is. So what we've set up as the example of the hero is the guy who sacrificed himself for others. Now, I don't think this guy agreed with that. He didn't like it. But I'll tell you what. That is what a hero is. A hero is somebody who lays down his life for somebody else. And guess what, squishy little millennial or Gen Z to the 10th power? If somebody breaks in your house, you die, your wife lives. You die, your kids live. You are disposable. That's your job. Jesus came. He died so we could live. He's the model. He's the example. Anything else is cowardice. You want to know why? Because we're designed like that. We are designed to be protectors. Right. And we need to raise our boys up to think like that. Like that little boy that saved his sister from being mauled by that pit bull. And that dog tore his face to shreds. And that kid barely survived. And he said, I just didn't want my sister to die. Come on, man. You had a little kid. He's a hero already.
Yeah, I think it was in 2007 when Cho Sung-Wee went into Virginia Tech. And I think it's Blacksville, Virginia, and started shooting up the class. I think he killed 30 plus students. Rich, I'm telling you, man, and I know it sounds like bragging, but I think you and I would try to stop him somehow.
Well, I don't know if I would do it out of trying to defend everybody, but I feel like I want to have a say in my destiny. I don't want to just sit there and hope I don't get shot. Like, I'd rather give her a go, as our English friends would say.
Here's something about that particular slaughter is that he shot, I think, 30 plus just in one room, and they were all hiding under the desk. And so you got to think that there's got to be, and again, I know it's formidable to be, looking at a Glock that's spitting,
terrifying,
140 grain 9mm pills at you at 1,200 feet per second. But also know that, these guys are not Keanu Reeves. They're not these badass supermen. And they lose focus at times, and then that's when you capitalize on their lack of attention. But you can't hit them with a desk. You can't throw a freaking laptop.
Yeah, they're not expecting resistance.
Right. And to me, again, was there not a football player in there? Was there not a track star? Was there not some big basketball Jones type guy could freaking like, what are you doing, you little Korean? And what the,
Well,
and he
recently
might have
that
taken
did happen. Remember that a football player did charge a gunman on another campus, and he died, but he saved everybody from that guy. That's what you're talking about. And there are those guys, but we need more of them. We don't need one guy at one school with everybody else hiding behind their desks in another school, right? That doesn't make any sense.
And again, I think, Rich, it's because we're allowing the culture to define, what a good guy is. Well, he's a good boy. I remember this one altercation. I don't think, like, because of the way I'm wound up, a lot of people think that I'm mean and I'm not nice and stuff like that. And I was getting compared to this one other Christian. He's so nice. He's so nice. I go, the guy's a freaking liar. He is way nicer than me, Rich. If you were to put both of us, in a room and get each other talking about stuff, he's going to come off way more likable than I am. But he's a liar. And he was committing adultery with 5 women. So it wasn't just, he fell into adultery. He jumped into it and swimming in it. Nobody knew that except for me, because I had dealt with him about these issues. But again, because of the way that I go off, I'm not a good guy like he is, because he's nice and he's amicable and stuff like that. And I perfected the middle finger. And so I'm looked at bad Doug and so-and-so's good fill in the blank, But the guy's a prevaricator extraordinaire and a philanderer. And but because he's nice and he's got a winsome personality, he's good, Doug bad,
Always. And it's on that initial perception. And a lot of it is temperament type. If you're a type A person, you're a jerk. And then you have this other person that's more passive. Everybody thinks they're nice, and they're just passive aggressive, and they can be just as evil. It doesn't even make a difference. You know what? Another thing I think that makes someone a good man is respect. Showing and giving respect to other people. And that's not being taught. When you meet someone, you should never shake their hand sitting down.
Hello.
Get up. Look them in the eye, shake their hand. Show that
unless
you're an
you're
important
paralyzed.
person. Yeah, exactly. Unless you're showing them that you're a person that matters. And you know what? A lot of times you don't even know who those people are. But I'll tell you what, Doug, there's a famous motorcycle club, and these guys are real big on respect. And if you're stupid, like if you do something that's disrespectful, but you don't mean to be disrespectful, you're just dumb, then they will explain it to you. And then after you've been explained to, if you're still disrespectful, then they give you what they call an education, because they're real big on educating people on respect. But you want to know something that's funny, Doug? I know people, and I'm one of them. I've never had problems with them ever, because I show respect to people no matter where I go. And so if you don't know and you're respectful, then they'll say, hey, and they'll tell you. But they don't have a problem with that. But you know what? That's not this famous MC. They're not the only ones. That's the whole world. And if they don't say it to you, but you're disrespectful, they're going to punish you in other ways. They're going to not talk to you, not be in relationship with you. That's how the world is. And people need to learn to be respectful, especially this generation. If you're a young man, you want to be a good man, somebody walks in the room, stand your butt up the instant they walked into the room, and you shake their hand and you meet them or you greet them when they come over. You don't sit there and look up from your phone and go like this. Hey.
Oh, hey.
No. I know guys that would literally, Doug, walk over there and slap somebody across the face for that.
Right.
And I think they should, because then people act right?
Yeah, I was around.
Kids socialized.
I was around. Again, these aren't like stupid teenagers. These mid-20s, mid-30s, playing video games like they're freaking 10-year-old retards. And I walk into the room where they're doing it, and they're like, "Hey," it's like, "Are you kidding me? You guys are just flipping morons." But again, they're Christian, Rich, and they're conservative, and they have no etiquette at all. I think one of the most important books that a young man can read is called The Idiot's Guide to Etiquette.
I haven't heard of that. We need to make sure Zeke puts a link to that.
Yeah, man, we ought to do a whole series on it. It shows you how to, use utensils, dinnerware, start from the outside, move in, dessert spoons at the top of the plate or whatever. It talks about, proper ways to address this thing called adults, you dumbass. Mm-hmm. And all kinds of stuff on dressing and all kinds. Just a freaking great book that, again, nobody talks about. And like I said, these three clods, Christian and conservative, and most people would say that they're good, but they have no sense of respect, don't know how to greet. It wasn't like I'd done anything that was untoward to them that, that got their ill will up and pointed at me. None of that happened. It's just stupidity. It's like, man, we didn't do that. Your uncle comes in. Hello, Uncle Wiley. How you doing, man? It's been a long time. Love you. Come look at these golf clubs. Come look at these rifles. Blah, 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 blah. But again, you got most people, they're stuck, or most young people, they're stuck with their flipping head in the phone.
Yep.
Watching porn, getting more and more stupid, by the second, instead of experiencing and living life and being a part of this grand tradition of masculinity, where you have these classic values and you're living them in the 21st century.
Right.
And if young people aren't about that, or anybody, my age, you know what? Speaking about respect, I don't have any respect for you. So
right, because respect comes from valuing others and following the rules or the social rules and laws of our society, right? And here's another thing, like, if you want to know etiquette, you go to another country. I traveled to a lot of countries, and I don't know any of their rules, right? So you know what I do, Doug? When I sit down to eat, I sit there with my hands in my lap, and I watch to see what everybody else is doing. And I don't eat before they eat. I watch to see when they start eating and what they do. You want to know why? Because I have respect for them. So I'm watching to see what the etiquette is. I'm not sitting there going, oh my God, I can't wait to eat and start cramming crap in my face. Like, that's weird, right? And the Bible talks about that, right? And so I was in Burma, and Burma's a crazy, crazy, crazy place. It was when I was there. It is again. And we went to this restaurant, and the guy who was the head pastor of this thing, he just passed away of COVID this last year. He's one of my great, great, great friends. And we went to this restaurant. It was the first time that we were eating together, and it's like, restaurant in Burma is not like here, just for the record. It's like this little shack kind of thing. And he has soup, and he has a little spoon, and he takes a little soup from it, and he says, He says, this is good, and he hands it to me. Okay, well, I'm in a dilemma because I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Do I use a spoon? Do I drink from the bowl? Do I get another spoon? Like, I have no idea, right? Because Burma's like culturally completely night and day to us. And so I hold the bowl, and I went like this, and I started like looking around. And he reached over and slid the spoon around. He saw me looking for silverware, and he just slid his spoon over like, it's okay, use my spoon. And some people might be like, I'm not going to do that. It's like, man, if you bunch of filthy animals out there, you could eat after somebody, you'll be just fine. So I ate the soup out of the thing. And you know what's funny? He shared his soup with me in the dinner. And some people might, and especially since he died, the guy was an incredible underground church leader and stuff, and now he's in heaven, But I look back at those times, and I think that was a really cool thing because everybody wasn't doing that, but he was sharing his soup with me, and it was a really cool moment. But I didn't know what to do, but because I respected him, I just waited to see, what was going to happen. And so if you have respect, you can learn etiquette, or you can ask, and that makes people value you, and it teaches you to value them, actually.
Yeah, you look at Daniel and his amigos; they were teenagers, I believe, and they weren't middle age, and they served in Nebuchadnezzar's courts. They were excellent in everything that they did, and man, you talking about some cat that that was a naughty, naughty, bad, bad type of dude. Nebuchadnezzar was, top of the totem pole in regards to being evil,
and literally,
and and Daniel and his three amigos treated him with grave respect. And served him, even though he was a sinner, and was 10 times more excellent everything that they did around Nebuchadnezzar, that he promoted them incredibly. And again, it's because these kids had etiquette on steroids, man.
Yeah.
They knew how to behave around a really, really wicked dude. And if they were going to be Christians and not obey and stand up to him, he would have cut their, head off.
That's right. And think about this, Doug. They didn't violate their religious beliefs. They asked for permission to eat separate food.
Right.
They didn't tell them. They asked for permission. And that's
and again, you think about nowadays. Yeah, you think about nowadays, like, I don't ask anybody for anything. I'm a Christian. God tells me, and blah, 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 blah. It's like they were, God's kids. They were saved by faith, looking forward to the cross. And
incredibly.
There they are, bad environment. And it's like, you know what? If we dig our heels and cross our arms and start finger wagging like that, he's going to throw us to the lions a little quicker than we expected.
Absolutely. So I think respect is huge.
Huge, man.
Huge.
All right, brother. So what's your final thought, Richard, before we wrap up?
My final thought is I think we need to, obviously we need to look to the Bible to see what a good man is. But I think also that we need to look at history and read history about and pick up on the character traits of the good men in history. Not just the heroes, but a lot of times they are the heroes, right? And we need to read about that and see what a good man is throughout history, and stop listening to our culture. Like, we need to stop listening to this garbage culture. And I'm talking about in the church too. Let's go to the Bible, let's go to history, and let's bring back even American culture. It's not that long ago, but let's raise up good men according to the word and according to history that has said these were the good men.
I would like the Warriors of Wildmen listener, say you go to a men's group and stuff, bring up what Rich and I have talked about today, and don't say anything. Just bring it up. It's like, hey, what would you define, a good man to be? And take a few notes. And as a conversation comes to an end, see if they bring up being a provider or a protector.
Yeah.
Just see if they bring up those two things, because they're huge in the scripture. And it's what caused the fall of mankind.
Right.
Right there, folks. And see if they even talk about it, because I bet they won't, Rich. I bet they won't do it, man. So I don't know what I'd bet. Might eat a live cricket if they do, or something
1
like
million
that
pesos.
Warriors and Wildmen. Something like that. I can afford that. All right, buddy. So what's a Warrior and Wildmen listener need to do? What they got to do?
Go to warriorsandwildmen.com. Subscribe. It's free. We'll send you a couple emails a week, let you know what's happening, keep you connected, listen wherever you listen to your podcast. But make sure you run over and subscribe, because sometimes we'll get deplatformed. Things are moving around, and you can still stay connected. If you want to help out the ministry and help us push this thing out farther, deeper, wider, hit the war chest. It's tax deductible. We'll send you the information on that. Warriors and Wildmen, out.